What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about PlayStation and the Game Awards. I thought for something like this, we should just do like the entire company. I also want to do this video for Xbox probably next weekend, so you can let me know what you think about it in the comments. There's a couple possibilities here, and it gets muddied when you think about a potential PlayStation event, which at least at the time I'm recording this, I'm doing it on Wednesday. You guys are seeing it a few days later. There's been nothing, and if there is an event, obviously that might take away from the Game Awards. If you have an event that's half an hour and you show 12, 15 games, you're taking away very likely a couple games that maybe could just slide into the Game Awards. Well, I've got a list. I want to go through the list. I got 5 games that are at least remote possibilities. If they're not on this list, so I'll give you an example. Like I still believe that there's an Uncharted game still coming. I don't know why, but actually there's a couple reasons, but I do believe Uncharted is still happening. It's not on this list, okay? So things like that, or just any game that you might think of that is not on this list, I don't really think it's at least in the same category as these games. So I got Wolverine, Death Stranding 2, Ghost of Yotei, Horizon's multiplayer game, and Astrobot. So I want to kind of go through one at a time. When it comes to Wolverine, this is one that needs to be shown like eventually, right? I mean, technically they all need to be shown eventually, but Wolverine's got the honor and privilege of being one of those classic games announced 3+ years ago that you haven't heard a single thing from since, right? You don't like to be part of that list. It just comes with like a black eye, but there's been reasons, obviously, I'm trying to make light of it, I guess, but there's obviously reasons why they haven't shown it up until this point. This one really they all make a lot of sense for Game Awards or like their own PlayStation show. Arguably, you'd have more eyes on the Game Awards than you would ever have at a PlayStation event. So, in terms of like pure viewership, there's never really going to be a higher time, to do Wolverine. And it just is the time. I guess that's kind of the major thing with Wolverine where, it makes sense to do it at their own show. Okay, 100%. And I think any of these you would probably want to do at your own thing versus giving it to somebody else. But there is history with handing things like Horizon off to Jeff Keighley, which we'll get to, right? But, it's just been long enough. And if you're not going to do your own show, then okay, well, this is it's a possibility that maybe 3 years later you can finally get this. In terms of likelihood, I kind of put this in the middle, okay? I would say Horizon is probably very, very high on like my just thought list. I think Horizon's multiplayer game could be like the big PlayStation game there. Even Astrobot to a degree, but, something like Death Stranding, maybe actually thinking about it, like Death Stranding because of Hideo Kojima, which we can just kind of get into that really quick, right? Like Death Stranding, Hideo Kojima, Jeff Keighley. Is there any more that needs to be said? It's also one of 2 games that you can pretty like more solidified than any of the others that you can say 2025, right? Like Ghost of Yotei is 2025. Death Stranding has long been talked about as 2025 and just makes a lot of sense, right? So, Horizon multiplayer, that probably also is next year, but you don't know that 100%. Wolverine, that one's a huge if, right? Like maybe it's 2025, maybe it's 2026. But Death Stranding and Ghost of Yotei seemingly is happening, next year, barring some sort of disaster or, just a delay, I guess, which also could be a disaster. So Death Stranding 2, I think, makes a lot of sense. Like, I don't know. Do you keep going into the Hideo Kojima well? Because he does it every year, and eventually it's like, okay, well, you're kind of expecting. One year it's not going to happen, and we're going to all be surprised. But, Death Stranding is kind of high. Ghost of Yotei, like I said, there's not much that makes me think this except for, like how close it is, because this game could be a summer game. This game could be a fall game. It could be, you could get Ghost of Yotei within the next, 9 months from now. And so it could be, Ghost of Yotei could be the closest of any of these games. It could actually be the closest game to launching. So maybe that, would be something that PlayStation would want to just kind of have more eyes on. We just got the trailer. It's kind of why I would almost give like Wolverine the nudge, to kind of get out there over Ghost, because it's like, well, you've been gone for so long, right? And people know about Ghost of Yotei now. We have time still to do more stuff, in 2025, but Wolverine, maybe this is like its coming out party. So I kind of go back and forth with Ghost of Yotei. I definitely think it's a possibility, but not a particularly, high one. When it comes to Horizon and when it comes to Astrobot. So Horizon, I don't know, I've had this feeling for a couple months now that if you think about like a big, and it's not necessarily like the biggest, but if you think about like a big PlayStation game that we know, but we don't actually know. Technically, if you're not paying attention, you don't know about it, right? I mean, that is fair to say. Like, and you got to remember, that's the majority of people. Even the majority of, say, if Jeff Keighley gets 100+ million people that watch the Game Awards, right? I would say 5% maybe know about Horizon, if that. I mean, that actually might be way too high. It could be like 1 million or so know that Horizon multiplayer game is coming. 99 million don't. It really could be that small, all things considered, really, because you got to remember kind of who watches these videos and just who cares, in general. So it would be a big thing, and it would be a surprise to most people that are watching the Game Awards that they would not see that coming. And it's new. Every one of these games is not new. Well, I mean, they're all going to be new. Like, when they come out, they're new games. But, we know of all of them. Wolverine, you've seen it once. Of Ghost of Yotei, you've seen it once. Of Death Stranding 2, you've seen it like 2 or 3 times. And of Astrobot, it already came out. But Horizon, of Horizon, but you don't know of the multiplayer. And I just feel like of the group of like complete unknowns, like if there is an Uncharted game, if like say Neil Druckmann's game, Cory Barlog's game, right, Santa Monica, Sony Bend, right, or Bend Studio, whichever it is, with Days Gone, or whatever their next game is, Blue Point. I mean, actually, that's a really good like 5 team, right? But you do have games that we might not even be able to see coming from some of those studios. Like I don't know what Bend or Blue Point's working on, right? Of those, I think they're all big. They're all big in their own way. Horizon might actually be the smallest, but also one of the more interesting ones. As I've always said, like I think Horizon multiplayer in Horizon actually works rather well for it. I think it would work rather well as compared to maybe some other games that they've tried and not so much worked. But I don't know. I just feel of that group of unknowns. Of course, there's other, like if you were ever going to bring back Twisted Metal, if you're ever going to bring back Sly Cooper, some of like the classics, like that could be a cool opportunity to do something like that as well. But I don't know. Yes, Cory Barlog's game I think would be bigger than Horizon. Yes, I think a Neil Druckmann game even would have more people talking about it than Horizon. But I feel like Horizon has the closeness to it. I think it's the closest one to coming out. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think people still would be excited. And maybe you combine Horizon with something else. The thing about the Game Awards is I don't think you're going to get all 5. That's why I keep saying which ones are more likely. You're probably going to get 1 to 2. And you're really only going to get 1 to 2, I think, from Xbox as well. He tries to play it very fair with like the major publishers. And Jeff Keighley's talked about it before that he never wants the Game Awards to come out and look like he's favoring a publisher. And in fact, other publishers get mad when they perceive it to be like that. If they think he's favoring, they get mad at him. So that's a very important thing, I think, to bring up, where this is not the PlayStation show. This is not the Xbox show. This is a video where we're talking about a bunch of possibilities, but you're not going to get 5, 6, 7 announcements. It's flat out not going to happen. You might get a lot of like Game Pass ads for some reason, but you're not going to get like 6 Xbox or PlayStation announcements. And then Astro, so the reason I threw this in kind of as like a wild card, we know there's more coming after the DLC. They said that. There's more coming after the DLC, but we don't know what it is. So whether it is a incredibly early announcement for Astrobot 2, whether it's another wave of DLC characters, there were some that were left out based off the end credits and stuff, and I've done videos on that. There is more coming. We just don't know what it is. DLC, new game. I speculated maybe like a Funko Pop. I think Funko has done PlayStation brands and PlayStation icons, Sly, Kratos, etc. In the past, so maybe Astrobot could do, and maybe that's what they were talking about. But if it was game content, you could say, all right, well, where is it? Because the DLC levels are done. We got the 5 levels, and they're phenomenal, but they're over. So what do you do now with Astrobot? Well, Game Awards, you could just, and it's being nominated for a lot of things, right? So it's like, hey, critically acclaimed, hits. PlayStation called it a hit. This game that really was a really fantastic game that a lot of people liked. We got more stuff to show you. Here's a trailer, and here's what's coming. I feel like Astrobot is a very easy kind of toss in. This would not make the show. This wouldn't be in your top 10 announcements from the show. This was just something that happened at the show, which, I mean, it would be impactful to me because I freaking love Astrobot. It's one of my favorite games of this year, but it's not going to like break the world, right? As opposed to like a Neil Druckmann thing, or if they showed like a freaking Uncharted game, like, yes, that would be huge, and that would be one of the bigger things that you would take away from the show. Astrobot is not. So really, I think if you did like Astro and Horizon, that's a pretty good pair because you have something that's kind of a throw-in. It's a game that's nominated, a game that just came out, and you also have like a medium-sized title that's coming very soon. And there's your PlayStation corner, for the Game Awards. Again, if you want to spice it up, like Ghost of Yotei or Wolverine, those are probably the biggest ones of my 5, right? So it's like if you show one of those, then you're showing a really, really big one, and then maybe you show a small one to go along with it. That's just kind of how I think they're going to arrange it. Maybe pick 2 of my 5 or 2 of your 5 or whatever, but I wouldn't go more than 2. 2, maybe 3 if you want to go crazy, if you want to, test your luck, but beyond that, I just don't think it's going to happen. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.